Back and bigger than ever, it's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is another edition of the unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com, and the entire crew is not here. That's right. Josh has got the week off, so we didn't want to bother him. And to be honest, dead period going on. Not a lot to talk about in the world of recruiting, so good time for Josh to get some time off. I will say I'm just surprised that he has disappeared completely off the face of the earth. That usually doesn't happen. But
this is true.
Even the war room, like, I think I've seen maybe a thought bubble from him a time or two, but he's never really followed through.
Yeah, I'm good.
So I don't know, maybe Tiffany took all of his stuff away from him, is possible. I saw some pictures on Facebook where there was some woodworking being done in the background, some clamping and gluing, I believe.
Are you jealous of the wood shop that he has out there?
Oh, no, I'm not jealous.
Is that just amateur work? Is that what that is?
No, he's got good stuff. I can tell he's got some good stuff. He's got his table saw is just a contractor saw. I mean, it's a nice DeWalt, but it's nothing that threatens me. Nothing that threatens my
Maybe he's
Laguna
gonna surprise
Fusion
us
too.
and he's putting together like a sweet bench for like the lobby area at the office or something.
I don't know if he'll ever be at the office again, to be honest with you.
I'm not going to drive up the 950 with the bench and the bed of the truck.
No, I told him. I told him it's possible.
Yeah, like the Bob statue in the back?
Yeah,
Yes.
He'll just build a Josh statue to put it in the lobby. So people are like, oh, that's our Lord and Savior, Josh McCuistion.
That'd be kind of cool. I think that'd have a great presence on Campus Corner.
Well, you know what we could do? We could put a stripper pole in the lobby, just as a memorial to Sugars.
I mean, if we play our cards right, maybe we could get the Sugars pole in there.
I bet we probably.
I don't know what they're doing with it.
Maybe we should move on that. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's not in a scrap pile somewhere already.
I don't know. Like if I don't know what they're doing with that building. I really have no idea. I thought somebody had bought it at one time, but I don't know. You're down there more than I am. I don't think that anything's moved into it yet.
No. Problem is, there's nothing next to Pickleman's. There's nothing, like, stuff goes out, but it doesn't come in. That's kind of a problem with Campus Corner right now. And I will say this, though. I mean, there's no shortage of kids there on Thursday and Friday and Saturday nights. I mean, that place is still hopping.
Well, we were talking about it the other day. There's so many kids nowadays. I say kids. There's so many people nowadays that are living north of Campus Corner. It's like completely kind of different from when I was down there because of all the new housing up there. Yeah,
I mean, you drive. I'm sure people that come in on game day, like they've gone down Jenkins or something to get out of town or to go to downtown. And they see like all the new townhouse living that's down there along the railroad tracks, and they've just
crazy.
They've either built new houses where there weren't, or it's kind of like the rest of campus. They come in and they buy up a house and they just basically raise it and then rebuild something on top of it, or just build some just luxury home on top of the home that was already there that goes all the way back to the end of the property. So I still regret that when I first moved back to Norman that I did not, or when I first bought a house, I didn't get anything on campus. There was something that was right behind the Beta House, which that would have been hell because that was before they expanded the Beta House. And it's just, I will say this, like, we get this all the time on the boards, like people that only come into town for game days, and maybe they haven't been in a few years, but like, I'm sure you've probably taken a drive along, like, Fraternity Row, Sorority Row. Just amazing how much that place has changed in the last 10 years.
Yeah, it seems like just about every fraternity and sorority house have upgraded.
There's only about 3 or 4 houses that are just remained unchanged from the days of like when you went to school or when I went to school in the 90s.
Yeah, and even like the Lambda House, they've renovated the inside of it.
Have they? Because it looks the same, yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, they've gone in and done some stuff inside. So, Delt's building that new house, obviously, because theirs burned down. We built a new house.
The Fiji house is really nice.
God, 10 years ago now. Beta redid their house inside. And all the sorority. I think Alpha Chi's redoing their house right now. DG's redone their house. It's a lot of money. There's plenty of money to go around in Norman right now. Maybe they need to start using that for NIL purposes as well.
Well, some say they should use that for the basketball arena. Yes, there was a complaint on the board after the game last night about. And look, I think we can all agree. We've all agreed for a long time. Lloyd Noble needs something. There was even a master plan that was going to be. It was being developed alongside the football master plan. And I know it's still there because last time I brought it up with Joe Castiglione, I was like, yeah, we still have that. But there just hasn't been a good time to release it because they don't think they can raise the money for it. But it is what it is. And I know I saw, Eddie, you sent me the link yesterday that people are trying to revive that community arena over in the
North Park thing.
The University North Park area. But it sounds like the people behind that are it's kind of a half-hearted effort. It doesn't sound like it's got the blessing of the city.
Ulterior motives, maybe?
Well, the problem is it's being brought up by a group that is tried to basically overthrow the city government. So they're probably not going to get a lot of support there in getting something passed to do that. So who knows? But anyway, we jokingly said that, Josh is gone. We can make this a basketball pod if we want to. Truth is, we really don't have a lot else to talk about besides basketball right now.
Here's the thing the thing I always say about the Lloyd Noble Center too is because they have the practice facilities there. Like, is it Florida? I always get these mixed up. Is it Florida or Auburn that went in and just completely renovated the inside of their current, or Alabama maybe that renovated they just need to move the seats closer. It's a terrible, it's a shitty basketball arena.
Yeah, because it was built as a multi-purpose arena. Yeah,
the structure, like, they don't need to be holding Sonic Flood concerts down at the Lloyd Noble Center anymore. There's other places to do that. If they could just go in and bring the seats closer, and it would take like a complete overhaul in there. I think that the facility is still very usable. It just, I don't know. Like, the idea of building a brand new arena has always been kind of foreign to me.
I haven't seen the master plan that they've it's almost like there's just this vault that holds this master plan that shows you what Lloyd Noble. But I mean, I know that they had things like luxury box seating, and somehow they were going to do something with the concourses to make that happen and all this. But I would love to see exactly, what the architects came up with in order to make that happen and to make it, because it is, you would really have to almost square off the arena because it's just a big oval right now. There's nothing you can do about it.
Well, and I think we all three know the best way to get people in the seats. That's win consistently. And the Lloyd Noble Center can be a pretty fun place to watch a game when it's packed. But when you throw out flunkers like they did last night, or
that was the first time this season where I was disappointed with the crowd. I get it, like TCU, Kansas State, even I was like, I get it. That's just not going to drum up excitement. No one's going to be fired up about seeing that.
But it was Texas.
But you have a team that's in the tournament, even if it's last four in, last four buys, however you want to phrase it, going against a rival, 6 o'clock. I know that's a tough time, but this was a must-win game, and that atmosphere didn't feel like a must-win situation.
And it's an all-time cop-out, too, isn't it? When people and fans or whoever say, well, it's the arena, why people aren't showing up. I've always felt like that's just a cop-out.
It is. And it always has been.
Nobody's going to talk about the structure and the architecture of Lloyd Noble Center. They just don't want to go watch that shit. And that's okay. Like, I'm not going to get angry about that. It is what it is. I have plenty of friends that have kids that would love to get down to Lloyd Noble Center. 6 o'clock's tough. So is 8 o'clock, though. So I get it. But at the same time, it is what it is. It was.
If you really
disappointing.
wanted to be there, you were there last night. There wasn't any
Sure.
weather to keep you. It wasn't like it was an ice storm like there's apparently getting ready to be tomorrow. Like it was doable. If you wanted to be there, you could have been there.
It
No,
would have been the
it-
first time. I'm not going to ask that in post-game setting, but actually ask Porter Moser, did you fully grasp that this is what you would be coming into? Because the crowds in December, like for Florida and stuff, that was pretty good. And it made you feel that January, February, it was just going to keep building. And it feels like it's regressed a bit. And I know he's worked hard with the students to do everything he can there. And I believe the students are free, correct? Like
Yes.
it's just flat out students are free the rest of the season. And that's been okay, but it's just like it felt like after the losses to Kansas and Baylor back to back, they never got the common casual fan to come and return for the rest of the way.
Here's part of the problem. If you are on, well, not even if you're on Sooner Scoop, like if you're a dedicated OU hoopser or something and you're on their message board, like you understand the position Oklahoma is in with the NCAA tournament, and that they've been squarely in even after all these losses. But I'm telling you, to the casual fan, they just look at it like they don't understand that.
Yep.
They're just like, they look at it like this season's been a failure. They have a losing record in conference. This team isn't any good. They're not going anywhere. While, it's just really hard to get the casual fan excited about this team when they have 4 wins in conference, even though, Joe Lunardi's had them squarely in the tournament, every step of the way.
Even has them in this morning. Don't you think, too, that it's one of those things that there isn't, I don't know, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but there just isn't a connection with some of these players because there's so many new faces. If you have a guy that maybe has been around for 4 years, you have like a I don't want to say a relationship by any means.
Yeah, but I think people were ready to get behind Tanner Groves. They loved him. They loved his look. It's on him that the fans have not, just fallen in love with him because of his play. I mean, like he wasn't even a factor last night. Like it's gotten to the point.
Very well at home.
No, it's gotten to the point where it's almost like a can't play Canner situation. It became last night. Like they just could not play him because Shagwa was just doing better, and he was just. They were falling apart when he was on the floor. He went up to KU and he made those threes and he made it a game. And then he just comes home and it just, anytime he plays anyone that has any size inside, TCU, anybody, it's ugly. I know you guys were covering the game last night, but basically Fran Fraschilla was just clowning him in his defensive ability last night.
They had no answer for him inside. Bob, I think the most surprising thing, two things, I guess, and it kind of came to light again last night in the first half. We saw it a lot in the TCU game 2 weeks ago. Was just, I don't want to say a lack of urgency, but offensively, they couldn't get to anything in the first half. Now, they did a little bit better in the second half when they started going down to Jalen Hill inside, but that was almost a makeshift, like nothing else is working. This is like a last-ditch effort. And then just how poorly they've shot the ball at home has been like 5 for 23. They're not going to beat a lot of teams. They were thankful to be down by 2 at halftime.
They were 31% from the field at halftime, and you mentioned 5 of 23 from 3. Mo Gibson's 4 of 6, so the rest of the team is 1 of 17, and that's when you can't get anything going with your offense because defense isn't going to respect anything that you're going to try to do from perimeter because they know you can't get it done. And you bring up wide open look for 3, can't get him to fall, and then you start pressing, and it's like where else are we going to find it? And when Tanner Groves doesn't have it going on that night, it just makes it so much tougher for everybody else. It was a slog. That's my word. A slog to get through that first half. Jalen Hill kept them in it with all the free throws.
Yeah.
Second half and overtime was actually sort of fun once you got past the fouls. But that first half is where they really could have set the tone for what they're looking to do rest of the way. Instead, they had to end up trying to play catch up and then get to where they want to be from the jump.
Well, and you know what's
We almost
crazy
quit.
is Jalen Hill was such a big factor on the interior last night, and you just ask yourself, okay, so why can't Tanner Groves be a factor? It comes down to really almost like he's just not very athletic. He doesn't have a lot of, as much as you think he has a post game, and as much as he tries to execute a post game, like he just gets. I mean, he gets shut down left and right when he tries to do anything on the interior. Like it's become apparent that no one's really scared of, defending him in the post.
I think that he's athletic enough. I don't know if he's strong enough to be able to do that inside.
That's a good point.
He needs to have a really good summer. And granted, I assume he's planning on coming back. He needs to have a good summer and just get flat out stronger. A bunch of those guys do to be able to play. And like, here's the other thing that it sucks. I mean, it's just the reality that Oklahoma basketball is in right now. I don't think that this team is just terrible by any means. I think they're a good college basketball team, but they're playing teams that are really good. And when you see how close they are, I think that's the thing that like I walked away last night thinking about was something that Moser had talked about, just the fact that, you look at the last 2.5 weeks, they've played really good teams, and they just haven't been able to get over the hump over the Kansases or the Texases like last night. And that's
they've been
why,
swept by TCU. I mean,
yeah, well,
that's what gets you fired up. Is if
Unexplainable.
they would have played like this during the week, they beat TCU twice, and so it's like it took bad losses that you couldn't afford to have them wake up. And they are playing at a pretty good level. You think about, back-to-back loss by 2 points to Kansas and Texas and destroying Texas Tech last week. But it's like,
but here's where I am in the frustration level. And this is, I think, the frustration level of basketball fans that do know what's going on. It's like, okay, yeah, they're close, they're this and they're that, but you look back to the football season, Michigan was close, Cincinnati was close, but when it came down to it, Georgia and Alabama were just on a different level. So it's like, what are we doing here? Like, are we just chasing our tails? Like, because you're going to get to the NCAA tournament and you're going to lose a close game to other teams that are just better than you. Like, even if the Sweet 16 is full of Big 12 teams, you're still not one of the better teams. So it's just like, you have to be able to make plays when they matter, and this team just cannot make a play when it matters. I mean, they got the big defensive play from Elijah Harkless last night. They got some plays from Jalen Hill down the stretch, but they cannot. I mean, to have Shagwa take that shot at the end, at overtime. I mean,
drive to the basket.
Yeah,
Drive.
I mean, it's just like even the rebound off the rim on the missed free throw. It's like, as you pointed out, Bob, like Goldwire
was ready to kill somebody.
Goldwire was just sitting there clapping his hands trying to get the outlet pass.
Give me the ball.
Like, what are they doing? They make such poor decisions in crunch time on the offensive end.
2 and 6, 2 and 6 in games decided by one possession.
I asked Moser about the final possession regulation. It was clear they wanted Goldwire to, be the facilitator, and he'd been doing a good job of that. Been able to do the pick and roll and just get into the lane, and then decide what he wants to do. And I think that's what they were going for. Texas changed the way they defended it, led the Shagwall being wide open, but instead of rolling, and cutting to the hoop, he popped out, had the wide open three. I don't think in that situation Shagwa is going to be able to make a couple dribbles and score in the final 2 seconds. So I'm okay with the three. It's just because of the fact that he popped out instead of rolling to the rim. He rolls to the rim, he might be wide open and then just not even have to dribble, just catch, make it, and then Sooners win. But Jordan Goldwire is starting to become what I think OU wanted him to be. And maybe that's something you can build on going into the final 3 weeks of the season. He's finishing strong at the rim and is finishing strong in the second half. We saw him make those threes in Lawrence. He had some crucial buckets last night against Texas. You're still kind of iffy when he's taking threes, but he's got confidence and he's been able to show through his production that he deserves to want to be the guy in that moment.
Out of everything
Still take
last
some
night,
shots that you go, oh my
Yep,
God,
he
why
does,
did he
and
take
he
that?
did last night. He had a couple threes and Moser pounding the score table. Like, what is going on? But when it's crunch time, he's making some really good decisions. He went 38 minutes with 1 turnover, coming off a 1 turnover game in Lawrence. I mean, he's doing a great job of being the floor general that everyone thought he was going to be.
and the one thing I wanted to see last night, which we didn't see, was for Goldwire to hit a couple more threes to see, like, okay, this is building because this will really help the offense, and this could be something that they can hang their hat on going forward. It just didn't happen. And he tried to hit, he tried to take some of them. They just didn't fall. But here's what we were bearing the lead a little bit. Eddie, you were standing right there as Chris Beard left the floor last night. And I don't know if you knew who the young man was that yelled at him, calling him a traitor, but it got him to stop in his tracks and make a beeline over to the young man. What was said,
It's
Eddie?
actually kind of amazing.
What was said by Chris Beard?
So it's after the game, everybody's walking up the tunnel, and he was just giving him shit. He said something to the effect of, the kid said something to the effect, he was a college student. They were sitting down there on the floor. He said Beard's a traitor, go back to Tech or something like that. Just kind of razzing him. And usually, Beard just walk off, but like he kind of about-faced it, came back over, confronted the kid, and it really wasn't anything over the top. I think people are probably making a bigger deal than it actually was, but he said something to the effect of, does that make you feel good? You don't know me. And the kid kind of completely backed down. He should have said something to him. He should have gotten in his face, just looked him dead in the eye and said, do something about it.
Oh my God.
Swing. That would have been awesome, but it was kind of a nothing burger. I thought it was pretty funny, to be honest with you. Just the way that, because you never see a coach I don't know what, I think sometimes everybody's just having one of those days where something just triggered Beard there when he
They
said
won
it.
the game too.
They won the game too. Normally you would just see him walk off, but I think that
It's probably because he didn't have an outlet. He didn't have an outlet after that Lubbock experience to do anything. So, but that'll show you how much that bothered him.
It was kind of one of those things too. It's like, you know what? I'm going to let the Tech fans give me shit about the decision. Oklahoma fan, you shut up. You have you can't comment on this type of thing. I kind of felt like that's what it was. I like Chris Beard, though. I think he's a really good coach. I thought it was funny.
Well, and we could see your reaction from Dylan Buckingham's video last night. So
I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. And you know what? The whole thing, I guess in a nutshell with Oklahoma basketball too. And I think that there's a little bit of this out there among the fan base. At the same time, don't we need to kind of remember what Porter Moser's taken on here? I've seen some people starting to get a little bit flustered with Porter Moser just as a whole. And I guess what they look at as the outlook of the program moving forward, I still think the trajectory is in a really good situation. You got to kind of remember what the expectations were. At the beginning of the year, we said if this team makes the tournament, it would be a really good year. Albeit, you look at the last 5 games, they need to win 3 of them to have a good feeling going into Kansas City, and we can get to that. But we do need to probably remember what the expectations of this thing were at the beginning of the year.
But that's why it is important,
Sure.
I think, for him to make the tournament.
You're right,
say, he can. Yeah, they'd probably be a 10 or 11 seed if they continue on this road. Probably get bounced in the first round. But to say you made the transition to OU, you had a makeshift roster, all the new scholarship players, trying to find 9 of them, and you got to the tournament. And that you can sell to recruits. Because right, it's about instilling the culture. The only way you can do that is through recruiting, is by getting your guys. And if you can make the tournament with, this makeshift roster that you had to do at the very last minute, then you start saying, now look what I can do now that I'm here, I'm entrenched, and I'm getting my guys, and we're going to take this where I know that it can definitely go.
You still think seven's the goal? 7 wins?
Well, they need to. I think Bob and I kind of talked about it earlier. It's like they got 5 games left, and really they got 4 games left because they're not going to.
They're not going to love
No.
it.
So you got to win your 2 home games against West Virginia and Oklahoma State, and then the other 2 that are out there. It's a Saturday trip to Ames, which Iowa State comes back and beats TCU last night in Fort Worth, or the final game of the year up in Manhattan, and Kansas State all of a sudden is kind of in Oklahoma's same situation as far as peeking in on the NCAA tournament and trying to improve their resume. So
if Kansas State didn't have COVID, they would be a tournament team.
I agree. I
mean, they're what? They're like 6-7 in conference, like that, or 7-6. Like that's a lot better compared to some of these other teams, and that's what's weird. Like OU struggled so much. If they didn't have one good stretch, and they're going to play the 2 teams that can get them there, Iowa State and West Virginia, they would avoid that 8-9 game in Kansas City.
The thing that caught me off guard that you said, Bob, that is kind of interesting is does Oklahoma want to play in that 8-9 game to get another quad 1 win? I don't know. It's I don't think that the 8-9 teams would get in above the team that finishes in 7th necessarily, but resume-wise, it's very obvious that – not obvious, but I don't think that the NCAA Tournament Committee is taking your conference record into consideration as much as that overall body of work and what the entire resume is telling them. So, I mean, is it over? No. Is it an uphill battle? Obviously. They got to get some wins. You got to win. You got to be able to steal a game on the road at some point.
And you don't have that marquee win coming up chance. That's what Texas was. That was the next top 20. You'd have Arkansas, you'd have Tech, you'd have Texas. You'd feel really good. And then you have some, quality wins like Florida and going to Morgantown. Like you've got some things in your bank. But now it's like, no matter who you win against the rest of the way, unless you get to the second day of the Big 12 tournament, none of these wins are going to pop out. So you just have to take care of business and not falter. They're 39 in the net rankings. They went from 37 to 39. Like everyone respects what they've been able to do, but they've got to go at least 3-2 here. And again, that's sort of what we've been saying. You have to win a game on the road where all these other teams have been doing it. TCU, TCU wins in Ames, and Iowa State wins in Fort Worth, and KSU wins at Texas. You've got to get one of those road games that you had no business winning initially, and ended up getting that upset. And that hasn't happened yet because Morgantown, it was a road win. West Virginia was, was on the downward spiral too. You've got to get a win against a team where it looked like coming in you weren't going to get it.
Just missed the 30-minute mark on just straight basketball talk.
Boom.
Very disappointed we didn't get there. By the way, I should mention Dead Soxy back to the Valentine's Day special is over, but they are back to 25% off for the using the promo code Boomer. Just go to deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. Check it out. They got the Oklahoma collections. 8 different socks for you to choose from in the Oklahoma collection. Now you can get the 4-packs as well. You can get the 8-packs. And Eddie, I know Bob. I don't know how often you've had a chance to wear your Dead Soxies at this point.
I bust them out for basketball games. I have my superstitions.
That's interesting.
I don't wear one that says Oklahoma, but I wear a lot of red.
Wow. Okay. I think you get to a point where you just stop worrying about that if you've done it long enough. It's just like, I don't have a lot of red stuff in my closet, and I didn't for a reason, but then you just get to the point where you just kind of like, look, you know me. I'm not homering it up here. I'm not wishing people good luck and stuff in press conferences and all that. Like, I'll do what I want now.
Yeah, you ran the former head coach out of the state. I mean,
and then brought in a new head coach that doesn't know how to coach.
Yeah, that's a little weird. But yeah, go check out deadsoxy.com. Use that promo code Boomer. Get that 25% off. Great socks. Get stocked up because you just need to have something nice to put on to go outside with, especially with the colder weather and all that stuff. It just makes you feel better. So go check them out, deadsoxy.com. Thanks to them for supporting the pod as always. But yeah, there's been a little, I saw your, you know what I had today? I got a notification saying that Eddie Radosevich has a new TikTok. Like that doesn't happen very often with you. With your TikToking.
Yeah, no, I put together a TikTok from the stuff last night, but I did put a video together after the Tom Fornelli stuff because I've kind of gotten a kick out of, like, if any national reporter says anything like slightly, not even negative, just like, well, I mean, they do have a new coach, and, like, you know, maybe it's not crazy to say that they have some things to prove. It's like every OU fan just like jumps down the throat of somebody.
Yeah, like how did we not get attacked for the Doomsday preseason pod that we did last year? Which a lot of that shit came true.
Still weren't buying in with Riley and Wiley.
Sure.
Well, you still had people that just like, nope.
Well, and Rattler too. I mean,
to that moment.
It's kind of a complicated subject because I do think that, like, we're in it every day. We're in, like, this bubble, and we kind of know, well, obviously know the pulse of the fan base and the pulse of kind of what's going on inside the program, where everybody feels like, you know, things are very healthy right now with the turnover and with Brent and the staff that he put together. So from the outside looking in, I can see why somebody would say they lost Lincoln Riley. He tied Bob for the most wins in the first 5 years as head coach. You lost Caleb Williams. You've lost, Isaiah Thomas, Periel Winfrey, Brian Asamoah, guys that played big roles in this defense. I can see why people would say Oklahoma might be having a step back this next season. I get it, but I also understand being inside the bubble as far as the argument and saying this program feels a little bit stronger, a little bit more sturdier than it was maybe a month ago or 2 months ago. The trajectory of, you know, what I think Oklahoma fans want the program to be might be on a better path than what it was under Lincoln Riley. I just don't think that people from the outside looking in, I don't want to say like how bad things have gotten because they went 11-2. Isn't it a very complicated discussion in trying to explain, I guess, the ideology of the Oklahoma fan right now?
Yeah, I mean,
it's a terrible way to say it.
I think with OU fans, they have a lot of insight into the problems that were, you know, that had kind of plagued this program as Lincoln Riley's tenure went along, and someone had I don't know if it was I get confused if people DM me or if this is a message board post or something on Twitter. It's just that there's so much stuff that floods in, and somebody was saying, like, you know, I think that they were kind of, their opinion was like, I wonder if Lincoln just had gotten so tired of the constant criticism that he knew going 11-2 and not going to the Big 12 championship, like the offseason was going to be horrible for him, and people were going to be questioning him for the first time about his ability to lead a program. And if it was like, did he kind of run away from that narrative that was going to start forming before it could form? And, you know, OU fans have lived with that. They know all that stuff is there. And then they see Brent come in and his staff come in, and it is so much more football centric than it is, glitz and glam like it was with Lincoln. Like, Lincoln was all about selling the program, all about, the stars that were in the NFL and what OU could do for players and, why they needed to come here. And it was a sales job constantly about what OU football could do for you. Well, Brent comes in now, and the focus is completely, how do we make OU football be a great football program? Like, his focus is strictly, how do we get better? How do you get better? Like, what? And they're talking a lot about the standard and all that stuff, and it's just like with all the support personnel that he's hired, it's not about social media, and it's not about And nothing, I'm not trying to rip on like Zach Heffley or any of those guys. I'm just saying there was a small army that was built around publicizing Oklahoma football under Lincoln Riley. With Brent, his army is built around supporting the players, supporting the program, and kind of bolstering them to, with whether it's strength and conditioning or the soul thing that they've started. It just seems to be more about the players that are here than the players that they want to be here.
Sure.
And I think that's a welcome change by everybody, that most fans can relate to that. They appreciate that.
I don't understand. What is the shortcomings of Venables that is being nitpicked by the national people? Because for years, hasn't he been the assistant that everyone's like, he's the next one
right,
become a head coach at a major program? And now that he has it, is it just because they're moving to SEC? Is that the only thing? That's the only reason I feel like, that this just isn't a good fit at this time.
I don't know exactly what Tom Fornelli said. I'm just going by like what you said, which is you can't have
presented.
Go ahead.
He just presented his argument poorly, in that his basic argument was Oklahoma's going to have a tougher road to hoe when they get to the SEC. The schedule is going to be much tougher. Everything that goes into it. We've covered this before. But his take was basically, I think that he gave the hire of Brent Venables like I forgot what the exact wording was, but he just said, I think that he basically said that kind of what we've talked about, the turnover, and he used like since 2009, Oklahoma's 5-5 against SEC teams, but didn't mention that, 4 of those come in college football playoff games. Just stuff that was nitpicked by Oklahoma fans, obviously, and rightfully so. I don't know. I think that there is just this sentiment out there that like Oklahoma right now is pretty easy to be picked on, and people know that if you take a shot at Oklahoma fans on Twitter or social media or wherever, kind of like a Colin Cowherd type, that they're going to give you engagement. And Oklahoma has a rather big following on the social media apps. And I think that people know that it's kind of easy catnip right now to be able to go out there and kind of poke the bear, if you will.
Yeah, and let's face it. Colin Cowherd certainly lit the fuse for anyone to get pissed off about national media. And even before that, the Stuart Mandells and Pat Forties. And at times it's just like, it's exhausting, because it's just constantly people telling you like, oh, you're a jilted lover. That's why you're, acting out. And it's like, no, we're acting out because Lincoln Riley dicked everybody over. Like, and you just have to let people have that. It's not, you don't have to also kind of kick us when we're down, I think, from the fans. And that's how they felt. But you're right. Just saying, you're saying 5-5 in the SEC and pointing that out, and it's going to be a tough road. Like, yeah, we've all said that. Like, we know it's not going to be easy in the SEC, and we've even said, like, hey, no hurry to get out of the Big 12 right now, because you still need to build this program up a little bit before. And I think Texas feels the same way. They know they see the same things. Texas fans do.
Yeah, and Texas fans even more so than Oklahoma fans. Again, it's just kind of difficult, because if you're from the Oklahoma bubble and you speak out against it, it's like, well, they're blinded by this this idea that they're going to walk. Yeah, I don't think anybody's saying, oh, he's going to go 12-0, 11-1 every year in the SEC.
No,
I think what Oklahoma fans are saying, and what people that cover the team are saying, is they feel like everybody that, like, I've talked to people that are on staff down there. They feel like they have a better program today than they did in December of 2021.
They're going to be better equipped going forward.
Sure. And that doesn't mean that they're going to go beat Alabama tomorrow. It doesn't mean that Brent Venables has won any football games yet. But I just think from a program standpoint, things feel pretty healthy right now down there. And for everything that they've been through, whether it be Riley stuff or whether it be Caleb Williams leaving, the way that they rebounded, the staff that Brent put together, get Jeff Lebby in here, get Dylan Gabriel as basically I don't want to say a stopgap, but like to be the starter after you lose a quarterback like Caleb Williams and the ceiling that we all think that he could be, it's been pretty fucking incredible. And I think that's almost been discredited in a way.
But yeah, what's been weird is like some of these coaching changes are just like, oh, like Cristobal's going to get Miami back to where it's supposed to be, or Napier's a great fit for what Florida is looking to try to be. But for some reason, Venables to OU just isn't registering like national enthusiasm.
Yeah, I think that's probably because Cristobal's done it as a head coach before. Napier was one of the hottest head coaches in the country. Like, you can always question, like, okay, what's Brent? And I think it's fair to say, what's Brent going to be like in game management situations? Like, how is he going to handle that? How is he going to learn that? I think we would all agree, though, before Lincoln Riley kind of started, harnessing the power of the 5-star like never before, like this staff that Brent's put together just as a recruiting staff, it would be the best staff, since the early Stoops days, as far as a recruiting and potential development staff. I mean, they've got big-time names on the staff that are proven recruiters at big-time schools.
That I think we've already seen making waves in 23, the way that they were able to close 22 even, and plus the grad transfers that they brought in, or just outright transfers that they brought in. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sitting here saying that like the national folks need to be sitting around and kissing everybody's ass in Norman for what they were able to salvage in a way. But I do think it has been discredited a little bit. Why is that? I don't know.
It hasn't been acknowledged.
Sure. That's a good point, Bob.
Yeah, and I think it's a less sexy hire than, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there's also a little bit of,
not
just
that
from a
Cristobal's
national
that
aspect
sexy.
of maybe not worry, but if I was from the outside looking in, I would say, and we love Brent. That's pretty obvious, but I think that, if this was somewhere else, I would say, well, why was he never hired before, and why is it going to work there?
Yeah, but the fact that
what I mean?
Oklahoma, and then he's brought in this staff with him, it is funny and a little disingenuous in that the narrative was always, don't let Oklahoma in the football playoff again. They can't win it. And then it's turned into, oh, what a steal USC made in getting Lincoln Riley to leave OU to come to California. It's like, you guys you're just shitting on him like for years, and now he's the savior. Like I'm pretty sure Colin Cowherd was one of those ones that was ripping on, not wanting Oklahoma to be in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Now,
well, and I think
Lincoln's his best friend.
That a little bit of that has to do with just the location too. There is a need and a want, and I truly believe this by the national media. They want some type of representation on the West Coast.
And I think they want Miami to be
USC.
Great again too. I mean,
sure,
no
doubt about it.
They want Miami
No
to be in the spotlight. Maybe it's because they want trips out to Miami and they want trips to USC. I don't know. I mean, we're in the media. We know how that stuff goes. That's not a far-fetched theory. Like Stuart Mandel might just want to have nice trips to LA every once in a while, and nice trips to Miami because those are good trips. I mean, you'll get shot at in LA a lot more, but at least our experience says so.
And Kodak Black's experience as well.
I think I'm totally confused because I thought
he got shot at an after party.
No, I saw the video and everything, but then I thought he was performing like the next night. Maybe I confused him with Kid Cudi. I don't know.
Kid Cudi did perform for the Bengals after party, which I've never seen a team lose a Super Bowl and still have an after party. That is weird to me.
Well, they're not used to being.
I mean, I guess the season's over.
Yeah,
doesn't really matter.
Maybe that was it. Yeah, it was Kid Cudi and Joe Burrow. I saw together.
Yeah, on stage. But yeah, like
Still-
I do think that there is a want and a need. And I'll be honest, I love it when the Blue Bloods, quote unquote, are really good at football. I love when Notre Dame's in there and a USC or a Miami. Like, I think it's good for the sport overall when those teams are really, really good. But I'm also not, especially now, not breaking my back to see USC get really good anytime soon.
By the way, do you think that a little bit of Justin Bieber was happy that someone got shot at his after party? Like Bieber,
street cred.
Bieber
Street
can
cred.
be like, I'm still hard. People are getting
Think he had,
shot
like,
after
his
my
agent?
parties.
You think his agent orchestrated it? Is that what you're saying? Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, now he can be on another Drake song. So yeah, I mean,
Is that the cutoff? Like, you have to be shot to be in a Drake song or in a Drake music video?
I think Drake, appreciates people who are hard. So if he puts them on, because he's not real hard, so if he puts you on his album and it brings you some street cred, yeah, like Biebs he's swimming in it right now. Somebody got shot after his party.
Kind of cool.
That does not go for.
Drake needs to go full Degrassi and just get back in the wheelchair.
So you're advocating for his paralysis, is what you're saying?
I don't know about that, but maybe something. I don't
Get a lot of people
know.
mad at you. Unwillingly.
That was a who's who Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yep.
I saw the the Adrian Peterson thing was bizarre, and we kind of got details on that today. That he ripped his wife's ring off, and that was the domestic violence portion of it. Apparently, according to him,
There's no charges.
no charges are being
Okay.
filed. She's put up an Instagram post saying that he didn't hit her. But man,
Doing AD fly private, man. What are you doing?
8:30 a.m. I mean, I assume you were still pretty drunk from the night before. But fighting on a plane, ugh, never good.
Yeah, it's not the best look.
Not good.
Look or action, I guess.
But yeah, I mean,
Either way.
just all the shots of the people. Did I told people this on the board. We almost had and I don't want to we're trying to get away from the Lincoln Riley stuff, which we've already talked a little bit about it. But the owner of the Rams, Stan Kroenke, always been tight with Kings of Leon, and they were out there to play a private show. They were supposed to be, and they were at Kroenke's house, I think Friday night for a big party, because they sent me a picture with Mike Vrabel and stuff. And they were supposed to be in Stan Kroenke's owner's box, and they got a message the night before, and they're like, "Hey, just want to tell you guys, it is confirmed. Lincoln's going to be there." And it was very awkward because I think Nate called him a pussy, Nathan Followell, and then he unfollowed him and unfollowed Jared. Jared was collateral damage, and so it's been an issue for a while. But we were Gabe and I were actively trying to figure out exactly how they should approach it. I was telling Jared just to pretend he didn't know that he had been unfollowed, and just walk up to him and say, "Hey man, I still appreciate you following me," and all that stuff. Just to see how he would react and stuff. But
I think they should have just gone in and made a scene, just made an entire scene about it.
I guarantee you, Nathan would have just yelled "Boomer" the whole night.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was awkwardness avoided, which you're right. I did not like that awkwardness was avoided. I would have enjoyed knowing that they spent that entire game in the owner's box with him.
I do think it's really funny that Riley, and God, I swear we're not trying to harp on this, but all the pics you now see of him and Reggie Bush, and it's going to be, I'm fascinated, the inner workings of what we knew the Oklahoma program to be under Lincoln Riley and what the USC program is going to be from a media access and then from an alumni standpoint. To be completely honest, I don't give a shit what happens on the field. I want to know what the media policies are, and I want to know how much he uses those alumni. And if
he's going to use the alumni.
Yeah, he
wants them.
That's his MO.
That.
He uses what he has at his disposal in order to impress prospects. Like, that's what he does. And I'm not saying that's wrong. Look, you guys know this. I celebrated what he did for social media, and bringing the eyeball emojis and bringing the fans to the platform. It was great what he did, and he'll keep doing that, and he's going to keep doing that. I mean, he's obviously been hesitant, but like I still follow him. I'm not blocked like Eddie. So I see all the stuff that they're doing. Like, they'll bring in Anthony Munoz, and they'll bring in. The funny thing is, they're bringing in players that are so old that most people don't know who they are because they don't have a lot of recent. I mean, like Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart really are the most current stars that played for them, and that was right as though most players were just babies. But he'll have those guys around. Like
Juju, Cravens.
Yeah.
Those are two guys that definitely would be up on that list, I guess.
I think Cravens is part of their radio team or something like that.
Is he really? I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Yeah, but Juju would be probably the most notable guy that kids would know.
God, there has to be one more, doesn't there?
But that's the thing. Is he just going to, again, just go to the top of the top?
Sure.
And not allow the other, like we learned through OU years, that if you didn't serve his purpose, he wasn't going to bring you in.
He just didn't want people at practice that could tell people what was going on at practice. He cared more about that than he did the former players.
That shit is just not going to fly in LA. I know. People are probably sick of us talking about it, but
people just don't care enough.
It's fascinating to me. It is truly
No, I will admit, if I find out that their media policies are wide open, that will really piss me off. I might do everything I can to get blocked.
Well,
yeah. If it's open practices,
we're going.
We'll go chart plays.
Be interns for Ryan Abraham.
Yeah. I bet Ryan would let us do that.
Unless he knows that we're toxic as fuck, and he's like, I can't even be seen in the same room with you, or Lincoln will cut off all ties.
I would just love for Lincoln to look over to the right and see you with a camera.
Well, I think that's why I'm going to go out there and ambush him at some point. I will do that. I will pay for it. I will go out there and do it.
I'm just waiting for him to block me, because that's when I buy the banner near USC's campus, drop 3, rush 3, drop 8.
Oh, the billboard?
Yeah. I don't even know. I mean, I guess they're all digital now, so he could avoid it.
We could probably pay for like a homeless encampment over by USC campus,
and put Sooner Scoop tents Sooner everywhere.
What a troll that would be. Put maybe a homeless person on Scoop payroll. Hey, we'll give you $250 a month. Just let us put a couple Scoop.
You could just go out there and find the closest encampment, like you said, and just get some Scoop tents for them. Get them personalized, nice places to live. So Lincoln would have to
help in society at the same time.
We'd find out Lincoln's route to work every day. Just put those everywhere. That'd be a great troll.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Probably wouldn't cost us a whole lot. So.
Probably not. No.
We could do a merch drive.
We can do that for sure.
There you go.
Yeah,
for sure.
By the way, new hats will be back in stock soon, and visors, even more visors.
Beautiful.
I think so many visors, we shouldn't be able to sell out of them quickly this time. So maybe some different colors too coming, and some new hats. We'll restock all the ones that were sold out of as well. So SoonerScoopStore.com, go check it out. Definitely appreciate everybody that's been purchasing hats, and we're getting the Sooner Scoop gear as well, along with the U40 merch. So keep an eye out for that as well. Outside of that, really, I think most of the news with OU football has been former players. I mean, Kyler Murray in his situation in Arizona.
Hollywood.
Hollywood Brown. That
Is
can't
that
be
real?
true. That's not
I
real,
have
is
no
it?
idea.
There's
I just
no
came
way
home
that's
from the
real.
game last night and saw it.
And it was just a random dude posting that, though, right? It wasn't like a journalist.
Yes, I think that's correct, Kerry.
I mean, nobody. Come on, he's not giving up a pro football career to be a professional gamer. I mean, I
know that.
I think he's into all that,
but
yeah. I mean, like Kyler Murray is investing. Was it like FaZe Clan or something like that? Like he's building a portfolio based on gaming. To me, that's what you do. You don't just become a gamer when somebody's paying you millions to play football.
That Kyler Murray stuff is weird.
It's just so weird that we never saw this side of him when he was at OU. I mean, he sat out for a year. He sat behind Baker for a year. Everything seemed fine.
We know that he's a sore loser. I think we saw that after the Texas game. I mean,
right.
He talked to people.
Right.
The
Ellinger thing was pretty ugly. Loser. Yeah.
The thing about him being kind of painted as a malcontent in the locker room, though, that just doesn't jibe with everything that we had heard or anything that I had ever heard. I don't know. That seems weird.
You would have more insight because of baseball, too.
Yeah. It just, like, at the end of the day, when you scrub your Instagram account, if you don't want to make a big deal about it, like, you got to know people are going to look at that stuff. What do you want, Kyler? Like, what is your end game here? If you want a new contract, it just seems like he's trying to make a statement without communicating to the front office what he really wants.
Yeah. It's like, do you want to get rid of Cliff Kingsbury? Is that what you want? Like, do you want a coaching change? Do you want, do you want something in your offensive line? Like, what is it that you want out of this other than just to create confusion and let the rumor mill go wild that you want out?
Like, and by the actions that you have made, of course the rumors are going to run rampant. It's kind of like the stuff that we had always bitched about with Access media-wise. Like, rumors are going to be flamed out there, and they're going to multiply if you try to control a message that isn't there. If you're just upfront about things, that's one way to cut down on a lot of rumors. Like, if Kyler wants a new contract, just go to the Bidwells and talk to him about it. It doesn't seem like there's
I can't believe that
communication out there.
I can't believe that he can't get things done if he wants. Like, to me, he runs that place. If anybody does, it'd have to be him. I'm telling you, being a millionaire living in Phoenix, not such a bad life. At all.
Not at all. Yeah, it's just the whole thing's really.
But I think it goes back to what you said,
again,
Eddie.
I still know what the end of the day. Do you want to trade? Like, it's weird.
Well, and if you're in the
Especially when you
NFL,
heard from Mort.
If you're in the NFL, you've got to learn, like you said, Eddie, you've got to learn to be a better loser because you're going to lose. It's the NFL.
Yeah.
You're not going undefeated. You got to learn to deal with that
getting
stuff.
hurt.
I think it's
half of the year.
Yeah, it's probably 2 straight years of just falling off at the end. And I think we all know just from the A&M days and dealings that we've had or other people have had that Kevin Murray can be kind of combustible too. So I don't know if, some of that's in play here, but
I never felt it was the same after the hit against the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the way the last 2 years have ended have something to do with this. Because they were not
about, like,
the same team.
Feeling embarrassed too, or being the blame for the offensive woes. It's like he can't help it. Even if he's injured, he can't help it that DeAndre Hopkins has been hurt. He can't help it that James Conner was banged up.
Yeah,
offensive line needs some help. They still had a good year. They lost to the Super Bowl champs too. It's nothing to be ashamed about. I don't know. Very strange.
Yeah, and then you have. Baker just going silent, which is, maybe Kyler needs to learn something there. Yeah.
It's probably the best decision that he has made in a couple years. Just let that thing rinse.
He still trends on Twitter for me, at least like once or twice a week still, despite the fact he's saying nothing. And that's because all the comparisons are being thrown out there.
Twitter
especially
probably
with
knows who
Burrow.
your brother-in-law is. That's probably why. No, but there's going to be more coming out, and we'll start digging a lot more on off-season stuff and talking to coaches and all that stuff.
We're
So
waiting to get a spring practice, waiting to get a pro day scheduled. We know for coming up combine, there's stuff to be.
There's going to be 11 players at the combine. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I know Perion's the hot name out there right now. So not just for OU, but in all of football. I think he's going to be picked apart like few other players in the draft after the Senior Bowl performance. So I know
it's a really interesting conversation as far as like where you would draft him. Like, is he going to be a dominant performer in the NFL? And I think that he could have a really good career. I don't know if I'm convinced.
Is he going to
say
something in the next month to drop his stock?
Right.
I appreciate the honesty he had with Gabe and Teddy, but I don't know if that's gonna help him.
Gabe texted me after that interview, and he was like, "Yeah, I just did a 45-minute interview with Perion Winfrey. He dropped 15 F-bombs, and I'm not cutting that stuff out."
1 week of there's just so many questions about Perion as a player, because obviously he had a kick-ass week down in Mobile, but it's kind of like everybody else says. It's like the eye in the sky never lies, and there's going to be times where you turn on the tape, it's kind of like, what the hell's going on, man?
Well, and I think just
what do you make of the stuff that he said about Grinch?
I think he's been pretty critical of everybody. I think that's part of Perion. A lot of it's emotion too.
Sure.
I think he just feels betrayed, because the whole thing about that they'd almost hatched a plan for everybody to come back, and then that happens. Like, okay, we were all bought in, but you guys weren't. I think that's how Perion feels, and it pisses him off. I think it pisses a lot of those guys off.
Yeah,
I think, and rightfully so. That means that they care.
But yeah, it's like you're right. It's people are going to look at his tape and they're going to say, why wasn't he as motivated during the season as he was during the Senior Bowl? Like, what's that? How often does that switch flip on and off? Because he's obviously working his ass off to get a job. Is he going to work his ass off to keep a job? That's the question that everybody's going to be trying to answer. And you've got some maturity issues with him. We've talked about some of his stuff before. The first quarter suspensions, stuff that happened on his recruiting trip in Nebraska.
Yeah. Some of that stuff will be able to be explained away too, and it only takes one team.
And that's the thing. You talk to Perion, and he seems like a guy that has it all together. But he also, as we know, even from the Isaiah Thomas show, Perion has no filter. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting with Nick Benito, kind of see where he comes and goes and falls and raises and tests and all that stuff. I think he's out in Florida maybe, working out. I know he's in a totally different place than most people.
Okay. He's from Florida.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I think maybe his agents are from Florida too. So, anyway, anything else you guys want to hit on before we get out of here today?
We'll do a little recruiting with Jackson Arnold getting a huge bump. I know OU fans had to love that, going from 169 to number 66 overall, and just let you know that's the type of quarterback Jeff Lebby can bring in. He's not just bringing in some slouch, and he's bringing in one of the best in the entire country, and someone he noticed, pretty early on at Ole Miss. It's not like Lebby ran to OU and then offered this kid. It's like he already had the established connection and already done the evaluation. And if, Jackson Arnold ends up being as good as what his ranking suggests, maybe the drop-off isn't going to be nearly as much as some people might think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good pickup, and everybody that was like, he's not the wonder, that he's not Arch Manning, he's not Mekhi Nelson, or Mekhi, I can't even remember his name anymore.
Malachi
Nelson.
Malachi Nelson.
Yeah. See, drops out of my head that fast when you decommit. But yeah, I mean, it's a guy that arguably is as good as anyone else in the country. I mean, you can make a case for that. So yeah, I'm glad that at least something Rivals can put OU fans' minds at ease. I know it doesn't help with Austin Cozart, but sorry.
Yeah,
Ash.
I don't know how Ashton's not a 250 or 5.8 4-star at this point, but maybe it'll change after camp season.
Just blame it all on Josh.
He's not here to defend himself.
Exactly.
And we did have a big local thing yesterday with By Job.
Mm-hmm.
Community Christian getting Alabama and Georgia offers. And I'd love to talk to Josh because I know he had more of an insight of what the previous staff thought of him. But me and you, Eddie, we were there in June when By was at the camp.
Sure.
Looked really good, but as his junior season progressed, never felt like he were any closer to being offered by OU until Venables officially took over.
The funny thing about By, too, is just the fact that it's so crazy to think about. Like, he has all these offers right now, and he just finished his first year playing football.
Yep.
He's still learning the game, let alone the ins and outs of it. It's going to be really fun to see how much he develops over the next 12 months and even maybe the next 24 months or 2 years. Just as a football player, let alone like what he could be in 5 years when he gets done with college.
That'll be one of those kids you really circle for camp season. I don't know how much you learn from watching him at Community Christian. And we already had some board members say he hasn't looked like the most dominant player on the field, when he's going against 2A competition. So what's that going to mean going forward? But get him Under Armour, Rivals. Let's see what he can really do, and see if that ranking can be justified.
Yeah, and that's why I say maybe he hasn't been as dominant, but you got to remember this kid was asking what a hitch route was 13 months ago, and was literally learning the rules of football.
All right. Well, that's going to do it. We'll be back at full strength next week. Appreciate you guys. I'm sure people appreciate the basketball talk. If you didn't.
And we'll have 2 games have been played by the time we go next Wednesday. So we could be talking about 14 and 14 for all we know.
Let's face it, Iowa State's going to say a lot.
Yep.
I mean, if you go up to Ames and lose that game, you might just be walking your way out.
You have a lot of tired legs right now. 4 guys have played more than 36 minutes last night, and see how quickly they bounce back.
Yeah, that the concussion stuff was not good for the guard depth for sure. You saw a lot of tired guys out there last night on the floor. So, all right, that's going to do it. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.